Chapter 14. Caden. A week passed and I hadn't heard from Grail or gotten a text from him, but after our last talk, I didn't expect I would. I'd been busy looking for an apartment close to my business so I could get in on time to please Lane, and I'd found one I liked, told my parents that I needed my own space, and they reluctantly agreed. I promised my mother that I'd still go home on Sundays to eat pot roast, green bean casserole, and apple pie. There was no way I could keep that up and still stay slim, or without getting a heart attack at 40. When I looked up, it was a Saturday night, and we were closing. Brian had agreed to close for me tonight, because I'd promised Lane that I'd go with him to find out what Scott had been doing on his Saturday nights. "Are you ready, Lane?" I glanced over at him and he looked nervous, pacing around my office. "You have an office of your own, so why don't you spend time wearing out your own rug instead of mine? Are you going to wear that outside?" He looked at his polo that said coffee, tea, and thee. "Please don't wear that, because I don't need any more extra publicity. The shop is overflowing and I can't get time off." "Why do you want time off? You don't have a life like me." Lane glanced around and there was a pack of new polos without logos sitting on the edge of the couch, and he marched over and pulled off his shirt before he opened the package. "Don't do that. Someone could walk in here and get the wrong impression." "I don't give a flying fuck," Lane said, which was uncharacteristic of him. He always cared how it would look to Scott if he'd walked in. "Well, maybe I do, Lane. You have been on edge for weeks and I can't take it. Everyone has noticed that you're not your usual good-natured self. Now you're being impatient with those young kids from the college. Keep that up and we're going to lose them, and I'll have to cut your pay." I had to get through to him somehow. There was no way I would do that because Lane was invaluable to me. I wouldn't have this business if it wasn't for him. "That's because I'm an unhappy fuck, Kate," Lane whined as he opened the package and shook out the black polo lacking any design on the pocket and pulled it over his head. "Now we can go. Are you going to tell me where we're going first? I might not have enough gas in the Jeep." "Don't worry, you have enough. Now let's go. When it comes to gas, you always think that the world is coming to an end, and you'll have the only way to get around." He smiled and said under his breath as he reached for his keys, "Gas prepper." Lane and I waved at Brian and one of his mentees on our way out. I looked back as we stepped into my Jeep. "Is that boy old enough?" "Old enough for what?" Lane craned his head around. "Yeah." I double-checked. I made them bring in their birth certificates with the seal on and their ID card from the college along with passports. Okay, Lane. I get the point. Brian has a hard-on for a young swinging dick, and you're trying to protect my business. Not only that. I'm trying to protect my job. I'll probably need it if I catch— No, it has gone beyond if I catch Scott. Lane's voice broke. I punched the starter of the Jeep, and we took off. "Do you have a new Jeep?" Lane finally noticed. "Yup. It's the same colors, but I happen to like black and red. And soon I will have a new place of residence." "Turn left at the lights," Lane directed. "Where the fuck are we going anyway?" I questioned, stopping at the light. "I need to know before I head out." The light turned green, and I stayed there looking over at Lane. Someone blew their horn. "Okay. There's this club in the next town. Someone told me they saw Scott there on a Saturday night, talking with a guy at the bar. He didn't tell me any more. He said that I needed to take the time to find out about my man myself, so that's what I'm doing. I hope you tell me soon where we're going, because I don't intend to spend my nights trolling or stalking your partner." I conveniently drove through Grail's subdivision first on my way to the main thoroughfare, and slowed when I saw Austin's car, and then I turned to look at the picture window, and there was Austin and Grail standing facing each other, and between them was a baby. They were playing and laughing with the baby, and she appeared to be the happiest little thing with her large, expressive eyes. "Did I see what I thought I saw?" Lane questioned. "I know you said that Austin had a baby, but nothing, Lane. Don't you have enough problems without focusing in on mine?" It was such a beautiful sight to see how happy Grail was holding the baby. I wanted to erase the picture of Austin out, but I couldn't. I wanted to place myself there, standing in that house, and someone passing and admiring us as being the perfect happy family. I drove in a daze as I found myself on the expressway and Lane shouting, "You have to get off here." Fortunately, I heard him, or I would have been taking the scenic route and had to travel miles, and then make a U-turn somewhere. I'd probably get lost and wouldn't know how to get back. "Pull in there," Lane shouted. "For fuck's sake, I can hear, Lane. Just keep your cool. That's Scott's BMW. Park there. He's out with another man." Lane jumped from the car before I could turn off the motor. I hurried behind him and caught him. "Have you thought about what you're going to say? I told you to think about it before you decided to go looking for him. Are you prepared for the worst?" No man is prepared to discover that the man you thought you'd spend your life with is fucking someone else, and doing the things with another man you'd done in bed before with him. I placed my hand on Lane's back and said, "Calm down. Now breathe, and for fuck's sake don't get nervous and throw up. You know you've always been nervous." "I've always been drunk when I threw up. I'm nervous because I don't want to lose Scott." "Then let's turn around and we can forget this. You can have a talk with him later and tell him what you suspect." "No, I'm doing this now. I'm a man and I'm going to face it. I'm not going to spend my life hoping and waiting around for a man like Gray to." Lane looked up at me. "I'm sorry, Cade. I didn't mean what I said. You're right. I need to go home and talk to Scott. I'm not ready to confront him and make myself look like an idiot." As we were turning around, a voice said, "Lane? What are you doing here?" We swiveled around on the balls of our feet, our mouths ajar, because there was Scott dressed in a white nurse's uniform, garter belt, stockings, and high heels. The kind of nurses' uniforms they used to wear. He had that under a trench coat. He had on heavy makeup, long eyelashes, a wig, and a nurse's hat. Quickly he reached and pulled off the blonde wig, and the hat flew with it. The wig and hat landed at Lane's feet. Lane leaned and picked it up and held it out. Scott walked cautiously over to Lane. "I asked what you were doing here." "Shouldn't you explain first?" Lane said, his eyes showing his shocked expression. "There isn't much to explain. I was trying to make some extra money for a down payment for the house I promised you," Scott admitted. "What were you doing in there?" "No, don't tell me." Lane turned to face me. His face red from embarrassment, his eyes ready to tear. He wrapped his arms around his waist and Scott moved behind him. "It wasn't going to be for long, honey. Besides, tonight was my last night. I thought I could keep it from you until I got all the money for the down payment. When my hours and pay was cut at the hospital because of budget cuts, I panicked and took this job I found in a help wanted ad in the papers. It said for a waiter, and when I got here the pay was twice as much for a dancer, and I took it. I dance here, baby. I mean, I used to dance." Lane turned around and held Scott. "You did that just for me?" "Who else would I do it for but my baby? Do you think I like parading around for strangers, and thank God for the makeup, because I thought I saw the doctor in the audience? But don't quote me, because it's hard seeing anyone from the stage with those bright lights." "I'm sorry, If I thought you were unfaithful to me, baby, I would have stormed into that place and snatched you off that stage, and probably gotten arrested," Scott confessed. Then they laughed and forgot I was standing there. Scott kissed Lane, and when Lane came up for air, he had red lipstick plastered on his mouth and cheeks. "Can we go home, Scott? We have things to talk about." Lane turned to me. I'm going to ride home with my honey. Sure. What could I say? Lane was going home with his partner, and I was going home to my parents. I really had to get the fuck out of there now that I'd found my own place. I'd been putting it off getting furniture and hauling over my clothes. It was hard being alone since I'd spent my life living with parents or roommates. The way I was feeling, I wanted to call Sean and have him come over and give me a blowjob. There should be some privileges to being an older gay man, even if I was only 22, especially if there were younger men willing to throw themselves at them. When I climbed into my car, I sat for a few seconds. Then I said, why the fuck not call Sean? I glanced at my clock and found it was well past 1 in the morning, and I had to get up early to open the shop. It will be full on a Sunday morning with the students on campus needing a place to get coffee and a sweet treat, I thought. Then I decided, what the hell? I can't take any more of these lonely, uneventful nights, hoping and waiting for Grail to decide what he wants. I hadn't given up on Grail, I just wasn't ready to devote my life to him at this point. It did take a while for me to understand that I would never be this age again, and like Grail said, I should get out there and experiment. Well, my experiment would commence tonight. Reaching for my phone, I had keyed in Sean's number he'd left, along with the tickets to the concert. When he answered, there was loud music playing in the background, along with laughing and people talking over the music. What are you doing? Now that was a stupid question. I had to do better than that if I wanted him to look up to me. I've been waiting for you to call me. Tonight was the concert and... Oh fuck. It was tonight? I'm sorry, but it was a long day, and because of this business I haven't had time to breathe, let alone remember anything, I admitted. Sean laughed. I forgive you as long as you don't make it a habit, because I plan on asking you out again. I think I was flattered. I'd never had a cute guy come on to me like he did, and in front of Grail. He reminded me of me going after what I wanted. Why don't you come over to my place? We're just getting started. What do you drink? I'd never thought about drinking because I'd never hung out in college. I couldn't and graduate on time. It wasn't as if I was an A student and made the dean's list. I was a plain old B student. Not even a B plus, and barely a B. When I didn't answer, Sean said, we've got plenty of vodka and beer, but I wouldn't suggest mixing your drinks, especially if you're not used to drinking. How did he know? I wondered. However, I was determined to ask him as soon as I reached his place. Just get on over here. I want to see you. That was refreshing. He was doing the pursuing instead of me. I live in those apartments across from the college, directly across the street facing the college gym. On the second floor. I'll wait for you on the terrace. I know where that is. It should take me 15 minutes. I hit the red button and drove back near my shop. Sean gave me the apartment number, just in case I missed him. As I sped along to Sean's place, I felt like listening to music, so I turned up the music just to hear something instead of my own thoughts. Before I parked, and for the first time, I didn't think about Grail until Willie Nelson came across the radio with a song titled, Always on My Mind. Suddenly, I felt guilty about seeing Sean, but I didn't want to think about Gray, especially since I felt happy that I was doing something. Except trying to forget Gray or going home and jacking off to forget that I missed him. I reached Sean's apartment, and when I was climbing the stairs, a group of men were descending. The door opened and Sean raced to greet me, wrapped his arms around me and kissed me on the lips to my surprise. Then he handed me a shot and I downed it when he stared at me. Then he took my hand and led me through the front room, stopping to introduce me to some of his friends, who appeared to be high on something besides life and liquor. I want you to meet my roommate. He turned around, looking in the dim-lit room for him. Where the fuck is he? Never mind, meet some of my friends. Sean led me from one friend to another. What I didn't know was he was leading me to his bedroom, as he pointed out the bathroom, kitchen, and an extra bedroom and bath which had two couples lying on a large bed, kissing. Finally he opened a bedroom and said, "This is my room. My roommate is probably in the bathroom doing who knows what. If you hear grunting and moaning, pretend that it's nothing." I raised an eyebrow. There was an awkward pause, and Sean reached on the side table and handed me a shot glass, and he reached for a bottle and said, "Here, have another drink." I needed one because in my mind I was still Grail's man. I was only a few years older than Sean, but he appeared light years ahead of me with the dating thing and drinking. I hadn't really been on a date, if you could call that one time with Grail a date. All the other flings I'd had in college was just that, a fling, and searching around for that special someone who I could be with, where we could share the same things and enjoy a simple life.